Managing your property, your rental property, your investment property yourself, is it costing you more than what you're saving? Stay tuned.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, episode 433. What does it cost to have the biggest asset, or more than likely the biggest asset you own, managed properly, well, by a professional? There's always a lot of numbers that get thrown around when we sit in front of landlords from different areas, different types of properties. And this morning, Mark and I, we'll talk about it. Good morning, Mark.
Hello, Mr. Bergio. Hello, Mr. Bergio. Hello, everyone.
Property management and basically management's probably the backbone and the neck and the legs, the body of real estate, the value to a lot of principles, but it's not spoken much about. The information's not there, and sometimes it's almost treated like the orphan child when compared to sales, that is, but it's huge. It's like, if people can't have their property, if the asset can't be maintained, why would people buy it if they don't have the confidence? So what's your view on management and the different, take us through maybe the tiers of service that are provided, if there are, and what they are.
Yeah. So, I think it's there's a great analogy.
I love this comment. Most expensive asset besides my wife. Nikki, good to see you.
Good morning, Nikki. So, look, it's the biggest asset class in the country. Right, we got that. So you live in it, we got that. But when you want to rent it, you've got to find a tenant, and you've got to maintain that property and maintain the tenancy in the property. Now, you can do that yourself, or you can actually get a pro to do that for you. What are the benefits of a pro? And the big thing about today is that what does it actually cost? Now, Lisa Novak says, and I love this saying, it's like having a pot of gold or a bag of cash. If you had $1 million in a bag of cash and you have to trust a custodian with it, oh my God, you got to be careful. So you've got $1 million worth of cash. You've chosen someone to look after it for you. Not only do you want to make sure that bag of cash is intact, secure, you want to make sure that bag of cash is given back to you in 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years with more money in it. So guys and girls, you are trusting an enormous amount of responsibility on someone called a real estate agent to manage your property. That's the way I look at it. What does it cost?
Yeah, and I think there's sort of different levels of service. Now, if we sort of start at the bottom tier, which I think is quite new. It's almost like a treasury management service. There's probably different names for it, but basically the agency is only handling the rental payments, money in, money out to the landlord. They're not handling any of the really tenant inquiries, any of the repairs, sometimes not even the ingoing reporting. They're basically just being the bank for a landlord. And we've seen, and fees I've heard of 2%, 3%, 4%, like definitely around that sort of bottom end we've seen for that. What's the next level up?
It's an accounting only function. And it happens a lot in shopping centres or large retail precincts where the agent takes on like a treasury role. And then also what you'll actually find is, say there's 50 shops, the actual agents, like the larger city agents, will charge a fee like that, a couple of percent, but then they will charge a full-time manager or two for running through the centre. So that those managers will walk through, manage repairs, manage maintenance. So the landlord will pay a percentage, and then the landlord will pay like maybe 120,000 a year for having an on-site manager of the retail shopping centre. So that's one way, yeah.
I also just want to say as well, everything sounds good in property management, or you don't need it, or it's too expensive, until shit goes wrong. And then you're screwed. Like, I can almost imagine people saying in the back of their mind, just for that treasury fee, oh, that sounds good, because they just do the banking and I know the tenant and I don't want to be confronted with chasing the rent, but I'm happy to do all the repairs. Like, everything sounds good until there's 20, 30 grand damage, no rent's been paid, the place is trashed, and you got to go through insurances, court, and you're just like thrown into the deep end. And having the right service and framework set up from day one can be the difference of, one, that not happening, and two, minimizing loss when it happens. It's just like car insurance. You don't, like, if you didn't have it and then you have a crash, you're like, shit, why didn't I have it? Now it's going to cost me 40 grand to pay for the other vehicle to be fixed, when if I just paid the $1,000 a year, which you may have done for 10 years and it never cost you anything, and now you're screwed. So I think people just got to, it's almost like
a much bigger asset.
Yeah.
And it costs less.
Well, that's exactly right. We all pay car insurance, and it's basically costs more to insure your car than to manage your property and your car compared to
$500,000 or $1 million.
Yeah. So I just want to say
to manage a $500,000 property is probably the same as insuring a $20,000 car.
Yeah, and that just doesn't sound right. So I just want to get that from the beginning. Okay, then you've sort of got your next level of management where it would, I think they probably cover a little bit, but they don't do anything in depth. So they'll collect the rent, chase arrears, they may do the ingoing and outgoing inspection. Charge you. They may do, they still may handle a little bit of the arrear, maintenance, and they're sort of there, but everything's really reactive. There's not much proactive management, because it's just like the tenant calls complaint, we solve it, we facilitate it. And that could be from that sort of 4.5% to 5.5% range.
Yep. So the agencies are starting to strip away services and make them user pay, but then offering a lower percentage. But when you net it all up, you actually end up paying more. So on face value, book value, up front, it looks like you're saving a little bit of money. But when you amortize it over maybe a 5-year or 3-year period, you go, shit, I actually paid more than paying, So what they'll say, we'll do 4%. We'll do 5%, but we're going to charge you for this, charge you for that, charge you for this, charge you for that, charge you for this, charge you for that, one-off costs.
And then you've got someone who's that does all that, but very proactive. And I just want to say the difference between someone maybe paying 5% and say 7% for the Holy Grail, that when you look at, let's put this scenario out there, and you'll see that it's definitely worth paying the extra for the full service. Your property, let's say the letting time is 5 weeks to get rented, and you've got the one agent at 5% who's only reactive. They get their 4 weeks notice. Then they start their process, and it takes 4 weeks. You lose a week's rent compared to an agent that's proactive, may have already called the tenant 2-3 weeks in advance to the end of the lease, seeing their intentions. They may have already said their intentions are they will be leaving, they've bought something, and that agent starts marketing it a week prior because they're proactive and there is zero vacancy in the property. The 2% discount you thought you were getting could cost you a week's rent, which would be further than that. So I know there's a lot of examples. It's hard to put in context besides they do a better job, But that's a real simple way you're getting value for your money. If you went for someone who's a lot more proactive to work.
You put this well a couple of years ago by giving the analogy as a school teacher.
Yes. Do you want me to say it again?
Hey? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great Lee Woodward talk. I think I heard it on many years ago, where basically you would go to them. Everyone's just like real estate agents get thrown in the broad brush of everybody's the same. But then you could say, well, ask all school teachers the same. And you ask the person, do you remember school? Yes, they were all labeled school teachers, but did you have those teachers that you knew were just rocking up, just clock in, clock out? You didn't really connect with them. They didn't really teach you anything. They didn't really want to be there. They were still a teacher, compared to that teacher who was proactive, enthusiastic, that you were able to connect with them. You learnt more from them. They may still be a teacher. They may have still been even getting paid the same, but not everybody's the same. And you need to look at the differences and align it rather than just saying, oh, they're all agents the same. Doesn't matter who I pick. That'd be like saying it doesn't matter which school teacher I would, if you had one teacher to choose from to do a whole year with, would you have the same attitude going, oh, just they're all the same? No, you would pick the one that you connected with, that taught you the most. Same as real estate agents. A few comments here. Michelle, if they would discount their fee to the ridiculous, they will discount their service they provide. You get what you pay. So true. Luke, team super important. Experts are key.
Bye.
Good analogy. Thank you, Sean.
Let's pull in fees. So 5% plus GST to 7% plus GST, probably across New South Wales is norm. But I do think a good recommendation on a real estate agent to manage your property, very important. And I think what we're saying about minimising loss, one of my proudest moments in real estate was COVID. Through COVID, and that's over 30 years, through COVID, I watched an amazing property management team led and in the darkest moment when we did not know what was going on, I saw we manage 1,600 properties for about 3,000 landlords. So we have thousands of tenants individually and companies and stuff like that. And what I watched in property management services was I watched the people that were managing it themselves come to me, come to us. I noticed that the landlords that were on board with us had much more confidence. I noticed the landlords had much more with us, had much more direction. I found the tenants also felt the same. So we genuinely, hand on my heart, and I saw this hardcore, protected the asset. We fended and protected the asset. We had landlords that were self-managing that just left an enormous amount of money on the table because they thought that was the right thing to do. When it was overextended, too much, loss of money that they shouldn't have done. So in that darkest period, Virgin, and you were there, I witnessed a hell of a lot of really hard workers in property management, even as an industry. And I noticed us protect our clients' interests and asset. Thousands of conversations. We were having the same conversations with the same landlords day in, day out, week in, week out. There were some people that are very bad landlords, bad. And then we're there saying, look, you can't do that. That's too much rent they're giving away. And they're like, really? Like, yes, you only need to give away this percentile, not 70% or so. The value that was there in the deepest, darkest moments, how the hell were those landlords knowing that they were going to go into something like COVID? But they paid for that protection to have an agent working for them, and look at what it did.
Insurance and also a landlord that's self-managing, they're not going to have that perspective. Like we've got the overview of
Yes.
thousands of transactions. We can see the trends, what's happening, and we can give advice saying, well, a lot of landlords are only doing $30 off. You've offered $80. It's a bit too much. Like, I know you're going to be generous, but this is where it needs to be. And also, I was just thinking then to an owner that self-manages, when the property comes vacant is where I reckon they burn all the money or the pretend value they've saved from the tenant selection. A lot of owners, I think the figure's like 33% of owners self-manage. And don't get me wrong, that could be a reflection on a lot of bad property managers as well in the industry, but there's also a lot of good ones as well. And I think if you've got an asset worth $1 million, finding the time, I think it's a better scenario to keep changing until you find the right property manager to manage your asset, rather than just say, screw it, I'm going to do it myself. Because you're obviously an expert at whatever you're doing, you do that. But what I was getting to is the tenant selection. A lot of owners who self-manage, they find them on Gumtree, and the owners won't have access to the checks to see if they've been blacklisted. Even the times when it comes vacant, the extended vacancy. But even if they do engage a real estate agent just to do the letting of the property, think of this. Think of any business. If you are a regular customer there, you all know just the warm and fuzzy feeling, the extra service. You just know it's better because you're a regular. And that's the same with an owner that just goes to an agent. Here's the rent I want. Find a tenant, and I'll self-manage.
Yeah.
It's not there. And an agent.
It's like being a ninja, mate. You know, like you can, that a trained fighter compared to someone who's just having a go. And when you're in the ring, it matters. Just one thing I want to mention before we sign out. We've talked about management fees in terms of percentiles, but there's another component to property management, which is the letting fee. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so the letting fee is generally when the property comes vacant, finding a new tenant. And I know if it's a casual management, which the owner self-manages, agencies can charge up to 2-3 weeks plus marketing. And a lot of the time when it's managed, an agent will have a reduced letting fee, maybe half a week, maybe 1 week as well. But like I sort of said before, there's the value is before the agent, before it comes empty, knowing the exact date, seeing the trends of where the market is. Because an owner could be self-managing for 2 years, have had the same tenant, and the market's gone up or down, and they just shoot themselves in the foot. So they think they can.
And guys and girls, get this one. The management fee is the locating a tenant fee is 1 week. Guess what we spend on locating a tenant internally?
Oh, we did figures it was like 3 weeks or 2.5 grand. So most properties like a month.
So we spend on finding a tenant for each landlord. We're doing about 70 lettings a month. We spend about 3 weeks, and then we put our hand out for 1 week to the landlord. We invest an enormous amount of time and an enormous amount of money to get a tenant in fast, a good tenant, the right tenant, at good money, a fortune. Why do we invest that much? It actually grows our business. So that's why we invest that much. But we're the beneficiaries, and so are our landlords by only paying 1 week letting fee.
Yeah, perfect. Anything else you want to add on to that, Mark?
You can talk all day.
Yeah, we're good. That's all right. We may do another topic on letting fees of that figure and what's involved.
Any other comments before we sign out, dude?
No, all good.
Everyone have a beautiful day.
I did see one actually. Intrinsic benefits, finding a good long-term real estate agent relationship. Yes, Luke, it's like an insurance policy, property managers, 100%. There's probably, Sean, I missed a few, sorry. There's probably only 3 teachers I still remember the name of, and that's correct. Same as people when they're looking to buy a property. 3 years later, 5 years when they're coming to sell it again, there will be a couple agents that I remember, even if they weren't the ones they bought from. I've had people come back to me saying, I had a great deal looking to buy. I didn't buy from you, but I want you to sell it.
Massively.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Have a beautiful day, everyone. Burge, thank you, buddy.
No problems. Bye.